Now, I want to talk about some other things that can influence thyroid metabolism and the thyroid hormone production. And one of them is gluten. So you can see here, this is a multi-center study published in the American Journal of Gastroenterology, prevalence of thyroid disorders in untreated adult celiac disease patients and defective gluten withdrawal. Key here, gluten, oh, we changed the color here, gluten withdrawal. Okay, and here's the finality or the conclusion of this study. Okay, the greater frequency of thyroid disease among celiac disease patients justifies a thyroid functional assessment. In distinct cases, gluten withdrawal may single-handedly reverse the abnormality. And I've seen this be the case with a number of people that have come to see me, meaning I've seen gluten-free diets in many cases completely reverse a thyroid diagnosis just through diet change. So if you've never embarked on diet change, if you're unfamiliar, maybe you're new to the Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain show, and you've never heard me talk about gluten, or you've never really heard anybody make an association between gluten and the thyroid, we have multiple research studies. As a matter of fact, you can go back to my blog at glutenfreesociety.org and you can read in depth, and you can go read some of these research studies. We prepped and put all this together for you, both on Hashimoto's and on Graves' disease, and the connection between a gluten-containing diet and the exacerbation or even the causation of autoimmune thyroid disease. So very, very important that you understand. I'm only showing you one study here, but it's very important that you understand there's so much more research than what we have time to get into in just a show. So thyroid dysfunction, we absolutely are sure that thyroid dysfunction occurs as a result of gluten exposure for people with gluten sensitivity issues. So again, if you're not aware, or if you don't know whether or not you have a gluten problem, what you need to probably do is get genetic testing done. That's like step one. Get a genetic test for gluten. And you can do that. You ask your doctor for it if they won't do it. We offer that service on Gluten Free Society because we realize that not everybody has doctors that want to work with them. They're too busy fighting them. I don't know why. But anyway, genetic testing for gluten sensitivity, because this will help you confirm whether you might be one of these individuals where a gluten-free diet could potentially reverse or dramatically improve your thyroid condition. And this next diagram here, you can see this is just an overview of the influence of the gut on thyroid disease. And so the reason why I put these two slides together is, remember, for many people, what does gluten do? Gluten impacts the gut, and when you impact the gut, you get direct influence over thyroid hormone function, and that's what this research study is discussing. So kind of looking at this diagram, this was published in the journal Nutrients in 2020. It's called the thyroid gut axis. How does the microbiota, meaning the bacteria that live in your GI tract, influence your thyroid function? And so what we're looking at here, you can see here, AITD, this stands for autoimmune thyroid diseases. So that includes Hashimoto's, but it also includes Graves'. You can see that dysbiosis, right, which is in your intestines. So this is dysbiosis from the intestines. This is abnormal bacteria milieu or abnormal microorganisms. So I've seen this be bacteria problems. I've also seen this be yeast problems. Okay, because remember, a dysbiosis, you've got more than one kind of microorganism in your GI tract, but bacteria and yeast are two of the predominant types. But a dysbiosis in those can increase the intestinal permeability. This is also known as leaky gut. And this is actually one of the mechanisms behind autoimmune thyroid disease, is that this dysbiosis triggers a leaky gut. And now some of these proteins from the dysbiosis, some of these byproducts of bacteria and yeast, can mimic your thyroid. The process is called molecular mimicry, meaning your immune system initially will attack these toxins leaking through your gut lining into your bloodstream. Your immune system's there. Remember, 70% of your immune system is here. It's in your intestine, right behind. It's called the GALT, the gastro-associated lymphoid tissue. And if you've got things leaking through across, your immune system is there. It's poised to protect you. And so it will start attacking those things that are leaking through. Well, if those things that are leaking through mimic your gland, mimic your thyroid gland, then what you get over time multiply this out over 5 years, over 10 years, is you get an autoimmune response. Your own immune system starts looking at your own tissue, in this case the thyroid gland, as a problem and starts to create antibodies to attack it. And this is what happens. This is one of the reasons why autoimmune thyroid disease occurs. So again, this is one pathway, and this is why gluten, and there's huge relationship between celiac disease and non-celiac gluten sensitivity. These authors use the term NCWS, which is non-celiac wheat sensitivity, but remember, it's deeper than just wheat as a grain. It's wheat. It's also rye and oats and corn and rice and millet and sorghum and teff, etc. So it's all of your grains. So non-celiac gluten sensitivity leading to autoimmune thyroid disease through this process of molecular mimicry, which is one of the reasons why supplemental probiotics can be so helpful. Because what do supplemental probiotics do? They can help combat the dysbiosis. They can help. Remember, certain probiotics prevent yeast overgrowth, and certain probiotics prevent bacterial overgrowth, abnormal bacterial overgrowth. So probiotics are regulators of the GI tract directly. So they'll help regulate the milieu of the environment in your GI tract. And that's why there are research studies that show positive impact of probiotics on autoimmune thyroid dysfunction. Okay, but we also remember what your microbiota do. So if you've got a dysbiosis, these same microbiota, what do? They help produce micronutrients. Okay, remember your vitamins, especially your B vitamins, many of them are made in your GI tract. They're made by your healthy flora, by your good bacteria. Okay, so for example, we know good bacteria can produce B12. We know it can produce biotin. We know good bacteria can produce vitamin K and other B vitamins. And so when you are creating a dysbiosis, you run a greater risk of developing these micronutrient deficiencies. Well, what did we just spend 20 minutes on? We said that B vitamins and vitamin C, right? And we also mentioned things like magnesium and selenium and iron, like all these things together, these micronutrients, right, play a role in the metabolism, the proper regulation of thyroid hormone, right? So when you have a microbiotic issue going on that contributes to micronutrient deficiencies, and again, there's multiple ways. One of the ways is that these bacteria can produce these micronutrients, but another way is that these bacteria also help you digest your food. Okay, so when you're eating your food to try to get access to magnesium or iron, etc., those bacteria help break that food down and digest it for you so that you can get access to those micronutrients. And this, again, is why when we see low iron, low iodine, impaired thyroid hormone synthesis, and selenium and zinc, we see decreased conversion of T4 to T3. It's because these nutrients are necessary for that process, and these microorganisms are necessary for both the production of nutrients but also the digestion of these nutrients. So key role, the gut, and this goes back to what we said in the very beginning. What are the symptoms? Oftentimes those early symptoms of hypo and hyperthyroid dysfunction are what? We said gut dysfunction, right? Irritable. If you've been diagnosed with irritable bowel or inflammatory bowel, either one of those things, it's your cue in to know that you might be your thyroid might be getting affected as a result of that gut imbalance, because your gut is necessary to help regulate thyroid hormone production. As we talked earlier too, we also talked about the liver and how important that is, and the conversion of T4 and T3. And one of the other things I mentioned was muscle. Muscle also helps convert T4 to T3. So if you don't have muscle, if you're a couch potato, if you're not exercising, you're potentially diminishing your conversion of T4 to T3 through lack of exercise. This is just one of the reasons why exercise is so important as well. There's many reasons why exercise is important, but this is just one more. Hey, don't forget to check out the rest of the series right here. Make sure you hit subscribe below. And as always, thanks for tuning in.